Hello, everyone, and welcome back to JaianMusic Notes. Happy New Year to all. This is an exciting episode for me because, like I did a few months back, going over a deep dive of the music in Neon Genesis Evangelion, this episode is going to be similar, but a little bit different. Welcome back to JaianMusic Notes, the podcast where we break down the soundtracks that define generations of listeners, one composition at a time. Today, we are deep diving. We are kicking off 2026 the right way. We dive into the musical cosmos of Cowboy Bebop, a show definitely that's been referenced many times on the podcast, but never had its own overview of discography. It's a universe of jazz, blues, funk, gospel, and this beautiful chaos, all tied together by the genius of Yoko Kanno and her legendary band, The Seatbelts. This isn't just another anime soundtrack. This is cultural revolution in sound. A body of work that redefined what animated music could be and how deeply a score could bleed into identity. So, 3, 2, 1, let's jam? Before we jam, though, I gotta jump into a quick shout out to the sponsor of the podcast, Laser Audio Technologies. They're incredible. They make creative effects plugins such as Fram and Glow. And if you use code JaianMusic, you'll get 30% off your next purchase. And you'll also help me keep producing more deep dive episodes like this one. Every dollar generated from that code goes straight back into the podcast, such as GoPro Kyo, who does all of the artwork. All right, let's explore the galaxy of Cowboy Bebop's discography. So, the first one in 1998, Cowboy Bebop. This is where it all begins. The self-titled Cowboy Bebop album, released in May 1998, is the sonic DNA of the series. This is where it all begins. It's been recorded at multiple studios, including the legendary Van Gelder Studio in New Jersey, a studio that I did not get to walk into, but walk close to when I visited New York a few times. This album explodes with hard bops and just big band energy. Big band energy, like cranked to a million. Tank opens with pure adrenaline. It screams rebellion, virtuosity, and it's held together by Yoko Kanno's meticulous arrangement. It's a salute to the jazz golden age, yet it swings with this futuristic energy. We got tracks like Spooky Doki and Waltz for Zizzy. I hope I'm saying these properly. That show her ability to pivot musically from swagger to sorrow. And then we have like tracks like Space Line that build emotional character. And this first album just isn't a soundtrack. It's a work of art. It really kicked off the whole journey for me exploring the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack. And then just a few weeks later, we have Vitaminless, also released in 1998. It strips the concept bare. 28 minutes of exploration, intimacy, and nostalgia. Here, we have the entrance of such a foundational, important, and beautiful piece in the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack, the real folk blues. That's where it makes its entrance. It's smoky, melancholic, got this blues ballad sang by none other than Mai Yamane, who makes a lot of returns throughout these soundtracks. A very beautiful voice. It feels like the voice is soaked in heartbreak and starlight. It's one of those few songs in Japanese that stands out like a confession to me. The perfect emotional counterbalance to Tank. Then we got tracks like Cats on Mars and Spy that toy with these like rhythms and this playfulness while still carrying that unmistakable Seatbelts charm. I find that the music that the Seatbelts makes has such a unique charm. And it is such a vibe that I can just spin those tracks over and over and over and over. This album just shows Kano's restraint in a way, her mastery, not just in intensity, but in silence, texture, and space. It's just the fact that these were released so close to one another was crazy to me. Obviously, all made beforehand, but still crazy to me. And then, still in 1998, if the first two albums were tight concept records, we had no disc, controlled chaos. This is, in my opinion, Yoko Kanno saying, genre doesn't define me. Here we have a collide of musical genres, like J-pop, bluegrass, chorales. You get tracks like "Want It All Back," funk and blues with a rebellious charm. We get Greenbird, that had its own solo episode on the podcast. It's ethereal, a wordless lullaby that falls like snow. And then we have songs like "Live in Baghdad," just raw music like that. It's as if each track is a different planet. It's funny because this is a concept I've used to describe Iceland, and Yoko Kanno composing music from a cold land that had Icelandic charm, such as Terran Resonance, how each song had its musical identity. I really feel like no disc, every song, because of how much genre colliding and almost collapsing there is, each song feels like its own musical identity. Yet they orbit around a single gravitational center. And that's Yoko Kanno's audacious curiosity with music, who's not afraid to just jump from genre to genre to genre. Like genre hopping at its finest, in my opinion. Then, 1999, we got Blue. This, to me, is the emotional core of the series. This is the album where Yoko Kanno bears her soul. The jazz is still there, of course, but it's infused with longing and closure. We get a return from Maya Mane singing the title track, Blue. The mix is celestial, so harmonic, and has this structure that makes me feel like the universe is like musically exhaling. It just feels like a release of pure musical beauty. Then we have tracks like Call Me, and the words that we couldn't say. It's sung by Stephen Conte, obviously performed by the Seatbelts. And this album, I just found this specific track released in 1999, like I said, had such a beautiful lyrics. I remember reading them over. I close my eyes and I keep seeing things: rainbow waterfalls, sunny liquid dreams. It just very small but effective connections to just the concept of blue, waterfalls, liquid dreams, just water. Like, I just find it like it just even poetically it holds itself. It just does. And then we have other tracks, and it just, every piece feels like a farewell. And See You Space Cowboy closes the album like a gentle bow to the audience. And See You Space Cowboy is an alternative version of the show's ending theme, the Real Folk Blues. This specific version is used in the final episode of the anime, while the regular blue track from the album plays over the closing credits, is what I'm getting here from Google AI. Gotta love Google AI. But it's such a phenomenal album. Cowboy Bebop Blue is on another level to me. And then this next one is very special to me. In 2001, so we jump 2 years later, we have Ask DNA, and we step into Cowboy Bebop the movie. It's an EP, and it captures the film's modern pulse. It's funkier, more slick, almost has a cyberpunk tone, and the title track, it's sung by no other than Raj Ramayya, which carries this like beautiful, rebellious energy like Spike Spiegel himself, with themes of freedom and what makes us human. And what's really special for this specific part of the episode is that I actually had the chance to speak to Raj on this topic about collaborating with Yoko Kanno. So I'm gonna play this clip right here just to contextualize it. Yeah, you mentioned Yoko Kanno, and I think it's a cornerstone of your work for sure. It's definitely something I hear the influences with listening to your music. And when we mention Yoko Kanno, we must mention Cowboy Bebop. It remains one of the most iconic anime soundtracks of all time. And I would love to, like, if you could take us back to like the story of how you first got connected with Yoko Kanno.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, the TV commercials. As a singer, my voice was really in demand as a session singer in Japan. So I was getting a lot of calls from agencies and management companies who wanted me to write songs with different artists and also to sing TV commercials because they love these Beatlesque voices in Japan.
Oh,
my voice is Beatlesque, and it fit for products, and then so that was my in. A lot of kind of big time composers were actually making their living writing TV commercials,
right.
And so I got a chance to become good friends with them because they'd call me up and say, "Can you sing this?" And I'd go down to the studios with my agent, and that's how I met her. Okay. I was singing for some, I can't remember what it was exactly. I've been asked many times, but I'm pretty sure some kids products.
Okay.
And she was working in this a tiny little studio in I think it was in Roppongi. And I remember meeting her for the first time and singing some commercials for her and getting to know her and her manager. At that time, she was with a company called Grand Funk, I believe, as a composer. And this is before Cowboy Bebop, pre any of that anime. It was just the beginning of that anime stuff, like late 90s, before all of that stuff really started. I think she was dipping into it, but it wasn't there. And then again, like I said, I met a lot of composers who started in that sort of underground, dingy little studios writing TV commercials world. It was an interesting world. So yeah, that's how I got started. That's where I met her. And then she reconnected with me years later, and said, "Hey, I have some jobs for you to sing for something called anime." And I was like, "I don't know what anime is." And I don't think anybody really knew what anime was at that time. And and that's how we got started, basically.
Wow. So how do you, from that starting point, go into singing Ask DNA, and like how involved was Yoko Kanno with that, like the vocal direction, or like was it freedom to interpret how you wanted? Like how do you jump from the beginnings to singing a very significant song for the Cowboy Bebop movie?
Well, she at the time, as I mentioned, a lot of the Japanese composers and songwriters wanted like a Western influence,
right?
So a new flavor in their music. They wanted the British taste, the North American taste, and so there were a lot of collaborative songwriters. Not a lot. There was there's a group of collaborative songwriters that had moved to Tokyo, like me, and wanted to get involved, and so they would invite us to help them demo, right? So we'd write lyrics, or we'd write some melodies, and so I got signed to her label, Victor Entertainment. So I was writing for a lot of different people. I was demoing lots of material, and she was one of many people that I was working with demoing material. So I'd be in my apartment writing some songs and making a demo and sending it in every week, and so she was the most successful, one of the more successful ones. But there were lots of other people I was doing the same thing, co-writing. And I, of course, co-write other songs on Bebop too. But at the time, we were kind of ghostwriters, and so we were just collaborative writers. That we weren't the stars, so we were in the background, kind of working with people, which went on for many years on the label. And so that would be it. She would send a demo, and she'd say, "Sing something on top of this," or I would write an idea, write some lyrics, and then send it over, and she'd say, "Okay, change this, change that," or "I like it. Let's find somebody else to sing it." And that was kind of the same sort of pattern, not just with her, but with a lot of different composers and artists in Japan at the time. Most people didn't speak English, so they needed lyrics, and they didn't have that sort of Western sense of melody. They were sort of figuring out how they were supposed to sound. They wanted to incorporate it, but they're like, it's not very legitimate if it's a bunch of people who studied in Japan writing songs that are supposed to be kind of American or Canadian influenced, North American influenced songs. They needed that factor in there to make it more authentic, I guess, right?
A little bit. The fact that I got to speak to someone who was involved directly with this album that I'm currently, with this EP that I'm currently talking about on this discography timeline of Cowboy Bebop, the fact that I'm just like made that connection is so special to me. And I'm just so grateful that I'm able to insert it here and just contextualize a little bit more because I'm such a fan of the series. And then we got tracks like What Planet Is This? It's all rhythm, it's motion, it's just like this record, it's short, but it's vital. It's the next step, the next evolution of the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack. And then, still in 2001, we have Future Blues. Here, like, if the series albums were jazz clubs, Future Blues is just like a roadhouse on Mars. Here, to me, Yoko Kanno embraces like that country western grit, Arabic timbres, and cinematic storytelling, pushing the sky with Ma Yamane once again. Just like I said, coming back over and over, like so glad because the voice there is just incredible. It's I want is just raw triumph in my opinion. And then we got tracks like Dig In and No Reply that have that blues feel to them. And then we also have Gotta Kick a Little Harder, just beautiful emotion in that soundtrack again. Kanno herself is just like so ambitious with all these musical releases, but they feel alive and it feels like an ending and a rebirth all at once for me. And then in 2004, we get Tank the Best. And this just felt like one big celebration, a retrospective victory lap through the best of bebop. It's mostly vocal pieces here with 3 all-new songs written for the 2005 PlayStation 2 game Cowboy Bebop Soyoku no Serenade. But what makes it essential are tracks like Diamonds, Einstein's Groovin', and Pearls. Yoko Kanno's Sonic World is just complete with this album, in my opinion. It's just insane to me that the first release is in 1998, and then over a decade later, the sound still evolves. It's like that combination of being forward-looking and nostalgic. Like an old record that still sounds brand new. Phenomenal. Just phenomenal. I also want to talk about in 1999, we had Music for Freelance. It's just an underrated gem. This one is bebop filtered through Western electronica remixes from the Ninja Tune label, turning Yoko Kanno's jazz into trip hop, down tempo, and just the remixes of like Cat Blues and Spaceline to show like just how music can transcend genres like over and over and over. It's playful, it's daring, and deeply rooted in the show's own humor. I love this like little Music for Freelance release in 99. And then we had Cowgirl Ed was another release in June 21st of 2001. Also recorded at the Van Gelder studio. Only 18 minutes in length. It's just a limited edition mini CD. The single, it came with the first pressing of Future Blues. But, you know, we had 6 tracks. Just a quick mention of it. And then in 2002, the Cowboy Bebop box set 4 discs, 100 tracks, alternate takes, dialogue clips, live performances from the seatbelts. This is just like the rawest form of Cowboy Bebop. Every quirk, every outtake, every heartbeat of the sessions that made history. You can hear musicians laughing. You can hear just like all these little tidbits. It's freedom in real time. And I just loved it. And then I also want to talk about the 12-inch vinyl singles accompanying the release of the Cowboy Bebop remixes, Music for Freelance album, and the Ass DNA singles. There were 2 EPs released on 12-inch vinyl containing a selection of material of the aforementioned albums. And just like the first EP was just like dubbed remixes that were and released in 99, 5 tracks taken from the Freelance CD. And then around the label, there are like trademarks as well, of course, because labels. There's dubbed As DNA was released in 2001, has 5 tracks. This EP was just released through the Cowboy Bebop Japanese fan club as promotional material in limited quantities. It came in a plain white jacket with a sticker. I'm just reading off the Wikipedia here. I just like, if it's part of it, I want to talk about it. So then closing segment here. When I think of Cowboy Bebop, I think of courage. Courage to make a jazz record for an anime. Courage to let silence speak louder than dialogue, and courage to let the music be the story. So from Tank to Blue, from the Real Folk Blues to Gotta Knock a Little Harder, this discography, I just wanted to overview it. Really, it's not just a soundtrack; it's a statement of artistic freedom. I loved it. It reminds us all that music doesn't need an explanation. It just needs to be felt. And before I get into the closing here, I'm super honored because I want to share a clip from my Mason Lieberman interview. The fact that I can share 2 interview clips about this discography is insane to me. Mason Lieberman is the foundation on the official Cowboy Bebop charity track, a charity single of Real Folk Blues that was released in collaboration with him and Funimation to raise money for the COVID-19 relief. I'm just going to play the clip. This clip just contextualizes how that all came to be in the pre-production of it all. It's so interesting. So take it away, Jaian from the past. And then there's projects like the official Cowboy Bebop charity vinyl that you worked on. You did an arrangement with a multitude of guests, to put it very gently, exactly. How do you navigate integrating such diverse talents into and maintaining one musical vision in all of that? That's
I would say it helped a lot that there wasn't that much else I needed to be doing at the exact moment it happened, because the world had shut down.
Yeah.
That project came together so fast. I literally posted on Facebook, hey, I think that we're all at home right now. Does anyone want to maybe jump on a new cover with me? I'm thinking maybe Bob-omb Battlefield or Real Folk Blues or something. We'll figure it out. And a lot of those musicians, there's a bunch of really amazing guests, but those were actually just the people who I mostly collaborate with regularly. Those are just my friends. And so, I work with Tina Guo on occasion. I work with Substantial and Mega Ran on occasion. I work with Zed Tabani on occasion. And so sooner, it just all kind of came together very organically. Of people started jumping on, and I started producing it and making it. And I would just go, oh, it would be really great if we could have live strings here. Well, I'll make a call. Let's just see who's available. Because, within a day or two of starting it, I quickly realized, I was like, there's no way that I could afford performance fees for all of these people. So obviously, we're doing this for charity. All right, let's figure out a way to do some good with this. Let's, raise money for a good cause. And over time, it just sort of snowballed. It sounded good, and so people wanted to be on it. And as people got on it, more people wanted to be on it. And before you knew it, I had the full arrangement done and ready to go with all the performances on it within about 2 weeks, within 14 days or so. And so at that point, I had a full recording. It sounded great, of just about everything that you hear in the final version, with roughly one very big exception, one thing that hadn't arrived yet, which was Yoko Kanno and the seatbelts.
right.
And what ended up happening is Raj Ramayya, who is a singer who's known.
I just interviewed him. That's crazy. Yeah.
So Raj was on the track already, and he said, hey, if you had any interest in collaborating with Sunrise or something, I could make an introduction. You could try pitching it. And I was like, that would be amazing. So I pitched to Sunrise. I had a prior history working with Funimation, so I pitched to Funimation myself. They were down. Sunrise Music, which is who I initially talked to, was down. Sunrise Music introduced me to Sunrise, the studio, the animation studio itself, because they were different, subsidiary departments. And during the meeting with Sunrise, they basically said, hey, we love this. We think this is really cool. We don't want to get your hopes up. And we want to set a expectation, but for you to distribute this in Japan, you would need the consent of the original author, of the original composer and lyricist. So Yuho Iwasato and Yoko Kanno, for the lyricist and composer respectively, would have to sign off on this, which is different than compulsory licensing in the West. It's a different process. And so I was like, wow, okay. I mean, I guess that means they're going to send a copy of something I worked on to Yoko Kanno? That's crazy. Oh, well, I won't get my hopes up, but hopefully she doesn't, hate it so much that she tells them that I can't do it. And like 5 days of radio silence go by, and then I get an email in my spam filter through my website's contact form saying, hello, this is Kanno-san's representative. I am the president of Yoko Kanno's company. Yoko Kanno wished to say that she has heard your music. Yoko Kanno wished to say that she liked your music. Yoko Kanno was wondering if you have heard of a band that she is involved with called the Seatbelts, and if you would be willing to perhaps feature them in your arrangement. And I was just like, yes, I've heard of the fucking Seatbelts. What? Oh my God. Yes, tell me anything she would like. I would be honored. Please tell Kanno-san that I would love to feature her in the Seatbelts. Please tell me how we can do that. A day or two of radio silence, and then I get back an alpha, so like a video where all of those squares, like the music video had been in progress at that point. She sent back a alpha thing that we just slotted over the video of all those things popping in and out. So her or her team or whoever it was did that edit themselves. They just did it. And they sent us a stereo recording of the entire band playing. So no stems, just straight up the recording. And I was like, oh, my engineer is going to hate me. He's about to have to figure out how to work with this, with them just playing over the top. But I'm not about to go back to Yoko Kanno and say, hey, actually, could you stem this out for me and send me raw video files? And I'd really like to do this myself. No. She's Yoko Kanno. I'm going to do whatever she says. So, that was how we got those files. And I basically ended up going through the arrangement, and I artfully tried to carve out certain sections to allow as much space as possible for her band to perform and sound good. Because remember, at that point, there was already an electric bassist and a drummer and a full ensemble playing at the end of that song. And then she just layered over the top of it, basically. So I was like, okay, we're going to figure out how to do this with two bassists. Or maybe one of them's just going to stop right here. Oh, but Kanno's bassist is playing acoustic bass, and we had electric. Oh, man. I'm going to have to find a way to make this sound good. I have to give credit to the mix engineer, Masahiro Aoki, who is himself a legendary composer. I am so honored to get to work with him sometimes. He was the lead composer of Street Fighter V, amongst many other things. Absolute rock star. One of the greatest guitarists in Japan. And he was mixing. And so, we had fun. We had a good time.
That sounds like I'm so mind blown because I remember watching that when during the pandemic, and I make cover anime song stuff on Spotify and YouTube. That's I do it for fun, and this show is trying to kind of complements that with speaking to people like you. But just I had no idea this was was happening, and this dropped, and I really want to forget that we're in an interview for a second, human to human during that time when I think a lot of people's mental health, even mine, we're going down because we didn't know what was happening.
It was a tough time for all of us.
Exactly.
Objective. That's why I wanted to do it, is because we needed something to do.
You helped me in that way. That's what I'm trying to say. You helped me in that way, and to know the story of that, I really appreciate you having the initiative and the wherewithal to pursue it to the end. That's Mason. That's incredible. That's really that really touches me to hear that story. I'm really grateful to even know the background of the production of this is so interesting to me as a huge fan. Dude, fan.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
I say pretty regularly that it is one of the most meaningful projects I think I've ever gotten to be a part of. And all of the people who are a part of that production with me are people who mean so much to me.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode. A big shout out, a big thank you to Laser Audio Technologies for sponsoring the podcast. Big thank you to GoPro Keo for the artwork. Make sure to follow JaianMusic Notes in your favorite podcatcher. Continue creating music. You can follow me on JaianMusic.com. Of course, I'm at JaianMusic on social media. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Bye.